Good morning, everyone. This is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, here with day 100 of Coffee and MTG. And who would have thought that after doing this 100 days in a row, we would have so many technical difficulties? If you're watching this right now, that's great. That's fine. But if you were here earlier for the stream, for the first, I don't know, 20 minutes of the stream, we had massive audio difficulties, but we've solved them. That's what we do. Oh, it's bad again? It's bad. It's bad. Okay, how about this? How about if I turn the gain down on... Okay, I'm going to turn the gain down on my microphone, but by a lot. I have no idea what's causing this. It's better, but that means I probably have to turn the gain way back up. It's great now. I've turned the gain down to almost nothing on my microphone. Something bizarre is happening. Anyway, let's just get in on with the show, and then we'll recalibrate when we go back to OBS for gameplay today. Get rid of that gain. Yeah, apparently you get rid of all of it. But I don't know what this. Maybe get fully rid of gain. I'm not getting fully rid of gain. Does it sound a lot better, or how will this? Okay, there's no gain. Now what does it sound like? How do we feel about this? Zero gain. It's amazing. What is doing this? And why all of a sudden? I will admit I messed around with some sound settings the other day, but I didn't think I messed with anything to do with this. Oh, and you can see me. Yes, here I am. Look at me, I'm here. All right, let's get on with the conversation. It's it's day 100 of Coffee and MTG. A little bit rocky getting into day 100, but hopefully not much more than that. Let's no need for gain. I'm a Tide Master myself. Ha 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 ha. For anyone who needs to clean up their act, that is. All right, so yeah, let's get into it. Now, there were a lot of interesting things happening over the weekend. For example, it was Neobrand Appreciation Day on Saturday, where a bunch of Neobrand players, not even just Neobrand players, even a lot of streamers picked up Neobrand to show support for the archetype. However, let's see. I got to go to Magic the Gathering Online deck lists. This was a really good test. Like, we talked about this over the last few... Is this the right Modern Challenge? Let me look. Yeah, this is the right Modern Challenge. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. But, okay, so first place, we'll get to this later, but first place was a mill deck in the Modern Challenge. So that's pretty impressive. We'll talk a little bit about that afterwards. But what I really want to get into is that a team of Neobrand players entered this tournament. And as far as I know, none of them got their lists published. None of them. You have a full force of Neobrand players entering the event, and none of them can get published, if I am not mistaken. A lot of, and you see what rises to the top. I'm sure Humans was a decent pick to have against Neobrand, given that they have like decent disruption in the form of Meddling Mage, Kitesail Freebooter. They have good pressure. They have Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Very difficult for them to beat. Good morning, Shadow Walker. So that list I showed last week is pretty retired because since the Mythic Championship, it seems every deck in Platinum runs for Extinction Event in main deck. It's too bad. 100 days of Morning Magic, absolutely. But where's the Neobrand? Where is the Neobrand? I don't think there's a single Neobrand up here. There's a lot of Humans, and probably because they were feasting on Neobrand. We have Death Shadow. We have another mill deck. This is not Neobrand. This is Bogles. This is not Neobrand. This is not Neobrand. We have a Prowess deck, another mill deck, another Humans deck. A lot of Humans. I don't know if now is a good time to play Humans, or the fact that there was so much Neobrand was a reason why Humans did so well. A Titan deck. So out of the top 32, and like the point I'm trying to make here is I really don't think Neo Brand is a bad deck. It just doesn't work. Neo Brand has to be you know what? I just hard disagree on this. I think Neo Brand not only does it need to be a surprise, like it also needs the right metagame. Like it needs a metagame of like no force and negation, no Thoughtseize, no humans. There's so many disruptive forces right now. I mean, even Chalice of the Void can sometimes be enough to beat Neo Brand and like just get raced by a Eldrazi Tron deck. There's just so much main deck hate for this archetype that it can't live. Like I understand, you know, they were sort of boasting that they were going to have this event, but I really don't think that Neo Brand has the tools, even when they are main decking things like Veil of Summer, and they are bringing in more tools, like what's it called, the that artifact that can sacrifice itself and you can't play spells on their turn. This deck can't compete in Modern. The tools that we have for Neo Brand are just way there's just way too many of them. Not a damn chance. Neo Brand, I believe, is still what is likely 4 cards off from making it an even better deck. I don't know what those 4 cards are, but it's 4 cards off from taking it to the next level. Now, I have always said that a deck that's sort of on the fringe is missing somewhere between 4 and 8 cards, and that deck that has been improved today is Mill, and I think Mill is actually going to be a real archetype going into the future. It got 2 new toys, but although this version is only running, was this only with no? Was this one did this version only play Hedron Crab? It didn't use the new cards? I could have swore I saw a list with the new cards. Oh, here it's and I can't even click on it. Ruin Crab and Blood Chief's Thirst. 2 new cards. Like highlighting a comment there. I'll highlight your comment, Squad Chief. How do you pull people's chat on stream again? You have to use I'm using an online client called StreamYards. So look up StreamYard.com and boom, you'll figure it out. Mill is bad because it takes 1 sideboard slot to hose it. Then go hose it. There's a lot of decks that don't want to see Mill. You mill over the win condition and they surgical extract it, and then boom, you're like snap lost. So, well, this sucks that they're not showing Ruin Crab. So this deck got 2 new cards and like 8 card Ruin Crab. Where's the crab? Too many cards with Ruin in the name. Ruin Crab. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 3 cards. And also the other new card that was Blood Chief's Thirst. And I'm saying it like I said when we were looking at the spoilers that this card, I said this could see Modern play. If there was a card that I thought could see Modern play, it was this one. And it's not yeah, I know it's sorcery, but still, I mean, it scales with the amount of mana you have, and for the most part, it's still 1 mana destroy a creature. Or Planeswalker. I mean, it's basically talking to Tybalt and Ren and 6 right here. Or they're also planning on making more 2-mana Planeswalkers. Value of this card might go up over time. It also has the new combo Fraying Sadney and Maddening Coquiphony. Not this version. Like I thought that this one used that new Maddening card, but this one is not. The one that won the challenge is not using that combo. But maybe the other lists are. This was just one of 3 mill decks that made the top 32 of this Modern Challenge. Let's go look at another one. But the point is, like I've said in the past, that these fringe decks, you know, the tier 3 decks, they're like 1 to 8 cards away from pushing through and becoming a real archetype. And I think Mill is going to be an archetype that you would actually now have to be prepared for. Okay, where's the other ones? There's more than 1 mill deck in here. I know. I saw it as we were going through them all. Let's analyze another mill deck. Here we go. So this one, again, is Ruin. So this one's using the Maddening Cacophony. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Talking about we have, well, I wouldn't say we have all the cards I want, but I have all the cards I have to work with. Maddening. How do I pronounce this? Maddening cacophony. So blue and a generic. Each opponent mills 8 cards if that spell was kicked. Instead, each opponent mills half their library rounded up. And then, of course, if you are combining that with this deck's not even playing Fraying Sanity. It's not. They're not. No, no one's even playing the combo where, you know, if you have to mill that many more cards into your graveyard, the Fraying Sanity, right? So maybe this is just a janky combo. Maybe, I'm sure some people have to have tried to play it, but maybe it's not worth it. I don't know. There's still a lot of room to innovate the mill deck. The mill deck has a lot of room to change. And there was one more. Let's go find the last one. Cacophony. All right. Oh, is this it? Here we go. Hedron Crab. Search for his Canta. Mesmeric Orb. Maddening. They have the Maddening Cacophony, but no one's running the combo. So the successful lists didn't go down the fancy route. They were just like, we're going to play this like a burn deck, and we're just going to mill you out the old-fashioned way. And Ruin Crab obviously is going to be a stock card now in these decks, in these deck lists. So mill, I mean, one of the easiest ways I could like the one piece of advice I probably can give everybody to help you against mill decks is just sideboard up to like 4 more cards than you normally would. Like the sideboarding rules aren't that you have to, for whatever cards you swap in your main deck, you have to swap for cards in your sideboard. You're actually allowed to just add cards to your main deck. So you can go from 60 cards to 64 cards. And that rule was made because so many people were accidentally adding more cards to their deck post-board, and it was worth game losses. But because it's generally a detriment to add more than like 60, having more than 60 cards in your deck, making your deck less consistent, judges found that it would just be easier to like just let this be a rule. You can add as many, you can put the whole sideboard into your main deck if you want. But the point is, if you add like even 4 cards to your main deck, that's, I think, worth at least like 1 point of damage if you're considering your library like your life total. So you like put your life total from 20 to 21 by just adding 4 more cards, and you're really not going to reduce the consistency of your deck too much, especially when we're talking about mill here. Get your Thassa's Oracles? Yeah, maybe. If this combo is worth it, I will eat a broom. Horizontal. Ouch. I ran across the mill combo in Pioneer yesterday, and also the Orbs All Spells deck in Pioneer. You know, that's a thing. Now, outside of Modern, maybe that is a more reliable combo. And if we also talk about formats outside of Modern, they now have mill available. Like, they finally got their first crab, right? So what's it called? They have Ruin Crab, and probably this is going to be a thing. It's probably a thing. They don't have fetch lands, unfortunately, but they do have that. Yeah, they do have that literal combo. Don't know what they're going to do in Historic. Niels Nielsen asks, what Planeswalkers do you think is the 3 best in Modern? 3 best Planeswalkers: Teferi Time Raveler, Teferi Hero of Dominaria. Probably still Jace the Mind Sculptor. If I were to give my list, I think all 3 of those are like more played and more heavily used, more utilized than say Liliana the Veil or even Wrenn and 6. I don't know if maybe Wrenn and 6 can beat out Jace the Mind Sculptor. Maybe at the moment. For the most part, there's not really a whole lot of. I mean, the only Planeswalkers that see play are out of the control decks because they can protect them so well. What if we play the new land clone and run 22 lands? Then we should be able to run even more sideboard cards. Yes, so long as they're playable. So, like, I mean, I would side up to more cards so long as the cards do something. You know, don't side in, like, I don't know, artifact hate when the opponent doesn't have any artifacts at all. Oh, I totally forgot about that. Okay, screw everything I just said. Karn the Great Creator probably can even go to number one, the most effective planeswalker. So Karn the Great Creator, Teferi Time Raveler, Teferi Hero of Dominaria. I think those are hands down the best planeswalkers in Modern. This is more of like a sideboard card, though. It's like a Relic of Progenitus. I mean, I guess Ashok Dreamrender does see a lot of play because it's good against Titan decks and it's decent graveyard hate. Ashok, I really don't want to give I really don't want to give Ashok the credit here, only because this is like mostly a sideboard card and can just be like jammed into a lot of decks. But I mean, I guess you could argue this still is, and if so, I would bump out Teferi Hero of Dominaria. But I don't know if it is the most. I don't know if it's the best planeswalker. It is just a really useful planeswalker. Let's just put it that way. You can't, like, if you bring in your Ashok, if you have Ashok Dreamrender by default against merfolk or humans, for example, it will do nothing. It will just die and do absolutely nothing. It will do a little song and dance, and that'll be it for Ashok. If you really want to beat Mill, just add your sideboard to your deck and call it a day, or put an Emrakul or Blightsteel Colossus to your deck with ways to discard it. Not so easy. You know what? Not so easy, because all the Mill decks are running Surgical Extraction. So they are actually prepared for this. They're not going to love it that... where's the Mill deck? Okay, let's just go to the top one. They're certainly not going to love it, and also they might just mill it away with Ashok as well. Where is the surgical? See, 2 surgical extractions in the main deck. So they do actually have game against like a random Emrakul or Blightsteel Colossus. And here's the thing. The cost of playing those cards are so high. It's a dead card. It's a literally dead card. And also you're bringing in against a deck that has the answers to it. So it's a really high risk if you want to go down that route and put an Emrakul in your sideboard when your deck has no business playing Emrakul. And also, what if you draw it and you don't have a way of discarding it? Then you're going to turn some hands to garbage. Any new Modern archetypes pop up from the new set? There might be a Jeskai control deck. Aspiring Spike made a Wildfire, Cleansing Wildfire Jeskai control deck, and had a really high win percentage with it, getting 150, a lot of 4-1s. Cleansing Wildfire ended up being way better than Confounding Conundrum, just because you directly destroy the land that you want to destroy and forces the issue, gives you something to do on turn 2, draws a card, is still very disruptive. And and it might have been really good because of the Charbelcher decks. The Charbelcher decks is just getting their ass kicked. That's another deck that, like Charbelcher, that this is now an archetype in Modern. Well, sort of. We'll see where it goes. It might go in the same way as Neoform. But the problem with Charbelcher is it's playing a bunch of lands. Sorry, it's playing the dual mode lands. So they're not playing with any basics. And then when they get hit with Cleansing Wildfire, oops, just got crushed. Just lost a land for nothing. So 2 mana, destroy target land, draw a card, and yeah, and they call it a day. So Charbelcher has a lot of problems to deal with. In addition, I mean, they're weak to also Ghost Quarter and Field of Ruin, because any land destruction just destroys the land, because they're not running basics, because they don't want to run basics. Belcher ain't the big boy in the meta right now. Belcher is definitely not the big boy. Belcher got a few wins in the beginning, but then there was a ton of people saying that Charbelcher is not what it is. People playing it, people playing against it. So some people got 5-0s, and a lot of other people got their head kicked in for the most part. Charbelcher has a lot of work to do to prove itself in Modern, but it actually looks really bad for Charbelcher. It's not even just that. Inquisition and Thoughtseize can take the lands away, so they have just like really in addition to like dedicated sideboard hate, they have to deal with like just generic spells that can just hose them right out of the opening. Okay, Inquisition you. Oh, do you want I'm gonna take that, or like actually I don't know how many lands in their deck can be taken with Inquisition, but I definitely know Thoughtseize, for example, will take anything. Thoughtseize, like, oh, you have like a one lander. Okay, take your land, and now you basically do nothing, and you might be too slow. It almost had another 5-0 yesterday, but they accidentally punted it by trying to go off in the upkeep. It will, like, I mean, like any combo deck, I mean, if you jam it enough, it is definitely going to get the 5-0s, but we need to see it in the top 32 of the Modern Challenge at the very least. Like, top 32 is not the biggest barrier of all time. Mill is performing hands down way better than both Belcher and Neoform right now. I have faith that one day Neoform will get broken in half because the deck can combo off on turn one. I have a lot of faith. But now, just looking at all the problems that Charbelcher has in Modern, it's really high. It's really, really, really high. It's like a fancy combo deck. It's not... It's vulnerable to too many generic spells, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Dylan has been doing great work refining Belcher and has been going very positive with it in leagues. All right, we'll see what's... I mean, I will say we are nowhere close to finding the best Charbelcher deck at the moment. I know Sodek is also working on it at the moment. Which Dylan? There's a lot of Dylans out there, but I will trust that there are people working on Charbelcher. We'll see where it goes. It can still easily be another month or two before someone finally finds a breaking list that really takes this deck over the top. And there's a lot of ways of taking it. Like, I saw versions with Blood Moon in the main. So in theory, you could actually play, for example, a Charbelcher Prison deck with Blood Moon, Chalice of the Void. Chalice of the Void on 0 and 1 doesn't affect the Charbelcher deck because they're running like 2 mana or 2 mana plus spells. Oh, Dylan MTG, I see. Okay. But anyway, Charbelcher has it needs help. It needs help. It's definitely not there out of the gates. Not that we can expect it to, and but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Every deck has to fear Force Negation at this point. Pithing Needle looking nice. Karn the Great Creator looking nice. Sorcerer's Spyglass looking nice. A lot of cards. A lot of cards. Yes, the Wildfire card hits basics. So if your opponent... So Wildfire plus... what's it called? Cleansing Wildfire and Field of Ruin are like a pretty good combination together. You could strip all the basics out of your opponent's deck. It's pretty realistic, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of modern decks that just do not run enough basics. So, I mean, Cleansing Wildfire, the Swamp. Okay, you get another Swamp. All right, Field of Ruin it. Oops, no more Swamps left. It's over. Now I'm starving for my mana base. Good morning, 555. I played against you last weekend challenge. Round 3 was on Red-Black. Oh, the Prowess? Red-Black Prowess, I think. Anyway, thanks for the game. Ashiok is Ashiok's gender is they. Just to let everyone know. White, red, Ponza, and taxes. It's possible. It's possible. We'll have to wait to see where this thing goes. Benjamin Barry can kill the forest with wild growth. Yes, and that's another thing. Cleansing Wildfire might end up being like probably like the card of the format. Like, I expect to see more of this card. Interacts really well against Ponza because of their Utopia sprawls, and potentially wild growth on a land. Interacts very well against Tron. I think interacts reasonably well against Amulet as well, or like Titan decks that use things like Simic Growth Chamber, for example. How many modern decks run less than 4 basics? A lot. Humans runs 1. There's a lot. Ashok's preferred pronoun is terror, as in whatever causes you the greatest amount of terror. I saw some meme about that. I can't, but I can't give you an exact number of like how I can't give an exact number of how many uh modern decks run less than 4 basics, but it's quite a few. Or in the basics territory. Good morning, GeForce 4760. Could slot Wildfire in this list that crushed me yesterday? I do not know. I can quickly check it out. Okay, what's going on here? This was made by Marin. I guess Marin from Marin MTG. Boros Prison. Goblin Dark Dwellers. Boom Bust. Yeah, yes, absolutely. And these sort of... So we might actually see a new rise in like land destruction because it's funny. We do have Pillage. We have Stone Rain. So there's definitely a lot of room of going in that direction of, for example, going in the direction of destroying people's lands, because mana bases are relatively greedy. If this gets more popular in a Jeskai deck, then mono blue Merfolk might get in another edge over blue green, even against blue eye control. I can get more Path to Exile on my board than lands I can get. Well, I mean, my current Simic list plays 7 basics, so I don't think I'll have a problem. I won't run out of... I very unlikely will run out of basics even against them. But like mono blue needs a lot of help to... Well, I wouldn't say a lot of help, but I personally am in the category of going like Simic. There's just too many matchups these days where you need to have like an aggro start and like get some damage on the battlefield for me. Yeah, humans in Shadow don't run many basics. Like if you really look at modern mana bases, we don't run that many basics. It's very, very few. You can easily be stripped of your basics. Do you run green non-creature spells in the sideboard at the moment? None at the moment. I try to make my mana base as easy as possible. It's actually a lot of colorless stuff like Chalice of the Void, Relic of Progenitus. I'm playing Force Negation, and which does not require mana, and Ether Gust, which only requires a single blue. I've used the green only for the creatures. Basic Advocate here, so I don't mind this too much. Yeah, get your basics. I had a blue-white control player settle, ally my Master of Waves tokens, thin my deck right out. Oh, you mean settle the wreckage? Yeah, so settle the wreckage, instant speed, exile attacking creatures, and then you put a basic in play for each attacking creature. Happened to me as well. Back when Settle the Wreckage was popular, that happened to me as well. And then you just end up drawing gas for the rest of the game. And then, yeah, I mean, generally I won after that Settle the Wreckage because I just had, I didn't have any lands left in my deck. If Back to Basics ever got printed into Modern, shit will hit the fan. It would. Which is why I don't think that they are printing this thing in Modern. This is not happening. I doubt this is coming into... I doubt this is coming to Modern. If it does, it would be a gigantic surprise. I don't even know if Modern wants to see this card. I mean, obviously not. It would be... It's such a hoser. If you hate Blood Moon, you'll hate this card too. I mean, it's just Blood Moon for like blue. And there will be a lot of control decks that will play this card for sure. But it would, I mean, well, here's another thing. Like, let's be honest. Like, we're in a metagame with Blood Moon, and a lot of decks just aren't caring. Like, we still see 3-color Uro decks. And maybe it's just because there's enough decks playing red, like the Prowess decks, that it sort of polices the Blood Moon decks. Or just make sure that Blood Moon is not too oppressive or too strong. Blood Moon is cute compared to Back to Basics. I mean, yeah, so like, you get Blood Moon in play, you can still tap that stuff for mana. You get Back to Basics in play, you ain't doing shit. You just don't do anything. Your lands are a ticking time bomb. I mean, it's like Choke, literally. It's Choke, but everyone gets choked. Everybody. Chokes all around. Is Merfolk Branchwalker too slow for Modern? I wouldn't say it's too slow, but whatever you add to your deck, Merfolk Branchwalker. The problem is making room for this thing. Like, is exploring really that much better than, say, putting a Lord in play? Maybe, pending how your deck is constructed. Maybe you have a lot of lands that are of value to you. But for the most part, I have not found that this card... I mean, I thought Branchwalker was actually okay. And maybe now it's better because we have Horizon lands to grab. But still, the interaction is the name of the game right now, or Lords. So that's why I don't play with Branchwalker. I like Back to Basics for encouraging less greed and mana bases. We could use less greed. Blood Moon is cute compared to Back to Basics. Yes. Yeah, but you can't color fix through Astrolabe with Back to Basics. That's true. Well, whatever. No, hold on, but you can. You can color. You just need basics out. You can still color fix. You just need basics. If Branchwalker was 1 mana, it would be awesome. I would take that for sure if Branchwalker was 1 mana. They play Bent Uro, and I played a deck. He had Blood Moon, and the creature that's a Blood Moon effect, it does police Uro. Well, not enough, because Uro decks are still like way too popular. And they just don't care very much about the Blood Moon decks. Or I guess there's just not enough Blood Moon decks out there. There's still a lot of Uro out there. I will admit, like, yeah, the Blood Moon is still going to hose them, but that's probably the only deck that really gets them. Maybe that's why some versions like to go Simic, because you dodge the moon effects. What's up, Merfolk Master? It's the Zombie Master wishing you well from behind Liliana's Veil. Thank you very much, JDX the Kid. Yeah, if you run Astrolabe, you probably run a lot of basics. Jade Light Ranger, not good enough for Modern. Good card. Oops, I put Jade Ranger. So explores twice for 3 mana, but at 3 mana, you can't be dirtling around in Modern. This is the problem. At 3 mana, you better be doing something serious. Because you're going to die next turn against a lot of decks. If that was your turn 3, that means that it might be their turn 4. I mean, if they print Back to Basics, would it force decks to run Mana Rocks and slow the meta down? Okay, this is how I look at it with cards like Blood Moon and Back to Basics. You're not going to force people to play basics. You're just going to tear down those archetypes that can't adapt. There's some decks that just can't run that many basics. Like take Death Shadow, for example. They just can't run that many basics because they need the shock lands to make their deck a deck. Like they need to take the damage, and there's nothing they can do about that. So all you do is when you introduce a card like Back to Basics into the metagame is Death Shadow won't adapt, it will just disappear. And then the decks that are naturally good against Back to Basics are going to rise to the top. So there's a lot of archetypes that they just can't adapt. They just can't. If their deck sucks to Blood Moon, and Blood Moon's everywhere, then the deck just dies, and there's not any room for adaptation. This is why Prowess is like one of the best decks right now. Like, okay, play your Blood Moon against Prowess. They don't care. They don't care at all. So for that reason, the Prowess decks rise to prominence in the metagame, and then everything else falls down. Everything else falls down. So when you introduce a card like Back to Basics into the meta, it's not exactly going to... It may not police anything. I mean, okay, in some sense, you do need some police. If there's a lot of 4 or 5 color decks running around, like in my opinion, Niv to Light shouldn't have free reign. And ever since Astrolabe got banned, Niv to Light also basically got banned because they can't survive a Blood Moon. You play Blood Moon against Niv to Light, and they're just totally they're toast. They're just gone. Same thing with Back to Basics. But Back to Basics is going to hit a lot of innocent decks that Blood Moon missed. You will literally punish all archetypes. You will I would not go as far as to say that the format will become Pioneer, where there's a lot of monocolor archetypes, but you're just going to almost unnecessarily punish a lot of these archetypes. And I don't know if we need it. I don't know if I would like to see it. I would definitely use it as a tool for sure in my Merfolk deck, but like how is Amulet going to adapt to back to basics? How is Tron going to adapt? They're going to play more basics in their deck? No, they'll just disappear. They'll just get pushed further down in the metagame. Just Guy's Tendency couldn't survive back to basics. Don't do that to Mammy. Price would destroy Modern. We mean the price. The price of back to basics? This is a cheap card. This is not that expensive. It's like $7, $8 US, and then if they reprinted it, it would get even further down. This card used to be like $80 or something for no dumb reason. It looks like a card that should be in, like, okay, let's look at the original. This looks like a card that should be on the reserved list. The effect looks like it should be on the reserved list. The picture looks like it's on the reserved list. But it wasn't a reserved list card. But the price of this card went stupid high. I think it went as high as $80 US at one point. Price of Progress and mod. I mean, they might let some legacy staples into Modern, but I think for the most part they want legacy staples and legacy, and they want Modern to have its own identity. Back to Basics is one of the most beautiful cards, and the flavor text is also one of the best. A ruler wears a crown while the rest of us wear hats, but which would you rather have when it's raining? Ruler gonna get wet. Oh my god, reanimate in Modern. You don't have enough reanimation spells. We have Goryo's Vengeance as it is. Again, I can't spell. Return target at instant speed. Return target legendary creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. So you can actually cast this card at the end of your opponent's turn. As crazy as that sounds, that's how this card works. All right, so I think we can now segue into the second half of this show, which is Decklist Review. All right, if you want your Decklist Review, go ! Deck Review, space, give the URL to your deck, plus leave comments. Help me out with, what format is it? Is it budget? What decks do you need help against? And yeah, let's, this was not the original thing that we were doing when I first started Coffee and MTG, because this is the 100th episode. I should do a little bit of reflection. Coffee and MTG originally, for anyone who's new to here, my computer broke down and I still needed to make content for my YouTube channel. So what I ended up doing is live streaming on my phone. I just took my phone and started live streaming in my kitchen with putting my phone on top of a bunch of like boxes. And yeah, and then just started live streaming and answering questions, answering people's questions, and talking about Magic in the morning every single day, every weekday up until now. And then finally, when I got my new computer, I could do some cool streaming stuff like we have here on StreamYards, and I could pull people's questions. And then I knew if like people were asking me, "Hey Nikachu, can you look at our deck list on this show?" And I said, when I get a new computer, and I can share the deck list with everyone, so everyone can see. Yes, we could do something like that, and that's basically what. Yeah, we've come a long way. So while we're waiting for all the deck lists to come in, we're definitely going to thank our sponsors, starting with the ManaBase.com, your home base for everything Magic: The Gathering, content on Commander, Standard, Modern, Pioneer, and more. And Fusion Gaming is sponsored by. The ManaBase is sponsored by Fusion Gaming Online. And their deal of the week. They always have a deal of the week. Deal of the week, save up to 15% off all Secret Lair singles box sets. So you can get that at Fusion Gaming Online. Remember, it's a Canadian site, Canadian prices. I get the question, do they ship internationally? Yes, they do, as far as I know. Go check them out at FusionGamingOnline.com, my favorite local game store. And we're also going to thank Mana Traders. Mana Traders is the premier place for you to rent Magic cards online, and you can support the channel by using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or you can save 20% off your first 3 months by using my coupon code Nikachu. I'm going to thank Mantras for being our sponsor, where you can play any deck, any format, anytime. And it's probably the greatest outlet for helping people play these new decks. Oh, Grim Ducky subscribed again. What, for the first time? Usually it says subscribe for this many months in a row or something like that. Thank you. Either way, thank you very much, Grim Ducky, for subscribing on Patreon. Subscribing. You are subscribed on Patreon, though. Oh, you subscribe with Prime. Yes, you said you're going to give me the Prime first. You're going to get me the Prime. Congratulations. You have access to the emotes. Look at old Lord Magicus's emotes. You have access to those as well. Thank you very much for the double subscription. Yeah, so it's come a long way, this show. And it's still reasonably popular. Everyone shows up in the morning. Still growing. And if there's anyone you know that needs their deck list reviewed or wants to be part of the action in the morning, you let them know where to find it. Find here at Coffee and MTG in the morning. All right, so let's go pick some deck lists. It's picked at random. That's why we do the queue. All right. Puke Zor's deck list has been chosen. Blood Moon Conundrum deck. Okay, let's see how this works. Even to this day, I have no idea if Confounding Conundrum is going to do anything. I can't tell if this card is good or is it just way too fancy. But we'll see. Snapcaster Mage, Thing in the Ice, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Ral. Is it Viceroy? It actually is quite a good card. Look at the top two cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand. The other one into your graveyard. High Loyalty. It can deal damage to target creature equal to the number of instant or sorcery cards you own in exile and your graveyard. But I believe it's the emblem that's like OP. You get an emblem with whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 4 damage to any target and you draw 2 cards. It's because what I like about I like emblems that will like really win the game. And when you look at this emblem, that's going to win the game. Like how do you lose the game? You cast Opt, you deal 4 damage and you draw 3 cards basically because you also replace the Opt. So like that is a game-ending emblem. Lightning Bolt, Opt, Serum Visions, Spell Snare, Cleansing Wildfire, Mana Leak, Remand, Archmage's Charm, Force Negation, 2 Cryptic Commands. You have a light green splash in here somehow. You have a Breeding Pool for Veil of Somber and Cinder Vines. It's funny, if you've got green... Well, I think Thing in the Ice is still good as a win condition. I was thinking like adding Tarmogoyf, but no, we'll forget that. So first thing, I do think you want 4 Opt. Who won, Slivers or Merfolk? Usually Slivers. Slivers is very fast. Very, very fast. They're outrageously fast. They're the hasty version of Merfolk. And they have, like the 1 mana sliver that gives all the slivers flying, gives them like instant evasion. The emblem can technically result in a draw. Really? How? Deals 4 damage to any target and you draw 2 cards. How can it... I'm curious. This sounds like a riddle. How can you get a draw out of the emblem? You mean like dealing damage and drawing from an empty deck potentially... There's no priority. It happens simultaneously. So I kill you for 4, but I also draw my last... I have no cards in my deck. So nothing takes priority? It's just happens simultaneously? Draw out and kill at the same time? Okay. Usually the rules might say like something takes priority in this situation, but I guess not. Conundrum is bad. I thought it was great until I played versus it and realized it's a joke. They just end up bouncing their Mystic Sanctuary over and over. See, and that's the thing. Like, it can help the opponent. And people did bring that up. Like Confounding Conundrum could also help Titan decks because you're just giving them extra land. You're potentially giving them extra land drops by bouncing lands, putting it back to their hand, and adding mana. You'll probably get lots of draws. Yes. So So first things first. Okay, I'm not going to touch Confounding Conundrum because, like, while a lot of people say it's bad, it probably still needs some play testing. But I would be open if this doesn't work. Play the Cleansing Wildfire. Cleansing Wildfire. Hey Chief, have you played Cleansing Wildfire yet? So I would, if Confounding Conundrum doesn't actually do anything, play Cleansing Wildfire. Next thing, I would play one more Opt over Serum Visions. I don't really like the idea of tapping out on your turn when playing a control deck. I think it's much better to always have your mana up so that you have Mana Leak available. Like, what if you want to play Serum Visions on turn 2? Like, let's say you don't have any more land drops and you're like, I need to make my land drops here. But the thing is, you have Mana Leak and Remand on turn 2. If you play Serum Visions and you don't draw a land, then you can't play your Mana Leak or your Remand on turn 2. Whereas you could pass the turn, and then if your opponent plays a powerful enough threat, you counter it. But if they don't, you can play Opt instead. So what I like about Opt in control decks is you're passing with mana up, and you leave your options open. Whereas Serum Visions, you're tapping your mana down, you're dedicating your basically your turn. I don't like it very much. Chief says he's amazed how good Cleansing Wildfire is. One of the best cards they printed in the set. It's definitely going to be a game changer in Modern as more and more decks pick it up. Oh, Wildfire is already in the deck? Oh, it's already here. Okay, forget it. I'm not reading your deck properly. Sorry about that. So we're doing this in addition to Canaan. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this hopefully is going to be ending up being a combo. Do we have Field of Ruin? We do. Okay, that's good. You have your own Mystic Sanctuary. Honestly, I don't really like the green splash for, like, well, maybe you have enough cards. Return to Nature. This is 5 cards. All right, if this is enough, and it's a very light green splash, is it only the Breeding Pool? It's only the Breeding Pool. Okay, I can buy it. Chief wants his deck to be reviewed. Okay, so Cleansing Wildfire is in this deck, so no need to move the Confounding Conundrum. I think everything else is okay. Probably another... I don't know what to take out, but I think I would rather have another Cryptic Command in here because this is part of the lock combo. Well, not exactly a lock. It almost never is a guaranteed lock, but it's still pretty damn good. I think once per game you at least want to see one of these. But I don't know what to take out. You have 22 lands, which I think, given your cantrips, is fine, including Remand and Archmage's Charm. Yeah, I think this is okay. This is an okay list. This is okay. This is fine if this is where you want to be. All right. I would just switch the I would have one more Opt over Serum Visions. That's all I would do. Jeskai with Flagstones is actually really good now with Cleansing Fire. So, like, you blow up your own land and you, like, ramp yourself while drawing a card. Jeskai is actually good again. You heard it here first. The Chief has spoken. All right, so thank you very much for submitting the deck list, and I hope it works out for you. Let us know if Confounding Conundrum is what we I guess we are hoping it's not going to be, because if it is what it is, if it is what we fear, then we're going to hate it. So thank you very much for submitting the list. So let's get to our next deck list. Kalingi's deck has been chosen. What is the format? The format is Pioneer, Mono Blue Devotion, Thassa's Power. Hold on, I'm not seeing it. Thassa's Power. Da-da-da-da. We have Spectral Sailor, Siren Storm Tamer, Spell Pierce, 4 Tricksters, 4 Harbingers, 4 Wizard's Retorts, 3 Gadwick. I love Gadwick. 3 Thassas, 4 Brazen Borrowers, 4 Master of Waves, and a Thassa's Deep Dwelling. One Castle Vantress? Why? Why one? I see no reason to have one in this list. I would up that to like, I would just play four. Or do we need islands in this deck for some reason? Like, do we have that creature that was Tempest Caller? You're welcome, Pukesor. Good luck with the list. We have Grafdigger's Cage. We have Dive Down. I'm really honestly not a huge fan of Dive Down. I would rather have Spell Pierce or something like that, but whatever. Ether Gust is strong. Tie-Bar Mage is good. Mystical Disputes, Nibble Obstructionist, one Ashok Dream Render. I think this. Yeah, where's the blue ley line for free devotion? Well, it also takes up a sideboard slot. So what Chief is suggesting, ley line of anticipation. This was played in a lot of blue devotion lists because you not only get free devotion off of it, you also have the option to play all your creatures at flash speed. So you can play like Master of Waves at flash speed. You can play Gadwick at flash speed. You can play Thassa at flash speed. And it makes it a lot easier for you to play your things like Wizards of Swords. You can play Harbinger for 2 mana at flash speed. I don't mind having Leyline of Anticipation in the deck. Some cards that are candidates to cut might be you could trim on Brazen Borrower and some of the 1-drops, maybe the Spell Pierces. But I wouldn't say Nimble to stop Oracle combo. Yeah, it's not. I don't think Thassa Deep Dwelling does much in this deck. In theory, you can keep blinking Harbinger of the Tides and Master of Waves. So there might be some value. I will say, Thassa Deep Dwelling has the ability to tap creatures. I would not underestimate this ability, and especially when you have a lot of mana, you have a lot of control over your opponent's attacks. We don't have that many Thassas. We have 3 Thassas in here. I think that's fine. I think that's a good number of Thassas. And then, like, the 4th Thassa is a Thassa Deep Dwelling. Okay, so first off, I would play 4 Castle Vantress because it's a free roll. And it's going to come into play untapped almost always. And it'll give you something to do with your mana when you have a lot of devotion, you have nothing else to do, and you'll just keep digging and scrying good stuff on top of your deck. You have quite a few creatures at instant speed already. Trickster, Harbinger of the Tides, Brazen Borrower. So this is not mandatory. But if you want to play it, the option is there. My only fear in this deck is that it's a little bit weak to Goblin Chain Whirler, but I don't know how popular that card right now is in Pioneer, to be honest. I don't know how popular that is, because it'll like eat up this, it'll eat up this, it'll eat up the Brazen Borrowers. You'd be left with a bunch of Grizzly Bears. If you can find a room for at least 2 more 2-drops, you really want the Devotion. We have, how much devotion we have? This is devotion. This is devotion. I don't know how this deck is going to play out. Like, Gadwick is very good devotion too, remember? Surgemare is good in that slot. I have nothing against Surgemare. Yeah, this is Pioneer. Yeah, we're in Pioneer land. So I would highly recommend this card. I don't know, I can't remember. I like Spectrals. I like stuff that you can do with a lot of like extra mana. I don't know how much I care for Siren Storm Tamer. Like it has its good moments, but it has its bad moments. We're not particularly interested in protecting any particular creature because they're all, who cares if Trickster dies? Who cares if Harbinger dies? So I would say that this Storm Tamer might be a flex spot. Like if you sacrifice it, you lose devotion for Thassa anyway. But you know, you can't kill the Thassa, you can't kill the other Thassa. Just something to think about. Sideboard I think is fine, but I'd max out on Castle Vantress. Might max out on Nykthos as well. When I played Devotion, like Nykthos was hands down like the best card in the deck. Like, I was not too disappointed flooding out on this card because Nykthos always gave me my best games. It always gave me my best turns. I might be wrong. I can't remember. I can't remember where I was on Nykthos. If there's a lot of removal in the metagame, then Nykthos sucks. If there's not much removal in the metagame, more Nykthoses are good. Because no one's disrupting your creatures, and if no one's disrupting your creatures, you just get to go ham with whatever you want to do. Lord Magicka says, don't know if Spell Pierce main is needed. And if that's so, I would definitely replace the dive downs in the sideboard with Spell Pierce. Again, I really don't care for these cards. It's like, it says super narrow. I don't really like them. You have 8 1-drops, so the flying Super Mana Leak is probably better than Wizard's Retort? Maybe? I like Wizard's Retort because it's a solid counter. This is not a wizard, though. Yeah, I would still go with Wizard's Retort, honestly. There's going to be a lot of games. There's going to be a lot of games, Lord Magicus, where you're going to side out your 1-drops because they're low impact against a particular deck, and then that card becomes even more clunky. I know you're talking about that. It's like 2 mana or something. Yeah, well, I mean, 8 1-drop wizards, but we don't have 8 1-drop wizards. We only have 4 because Spectral Sailor is a pirate. Lofty Denial. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. If you control a creature with flying, counter that spell unless its controller pays 4 instead. And like in this situation, like for example, let's say I'm up against a control deck. I'm actually probably shaving some of these cards because A, they're weak. They're like I would take out Siren Stormtamer against a control deck because all I'm doing is I'm playing into a sweeper. Siren Stormtamer can't get the job done by itself. It's not flash speed. So the more of these cards that I take out, the weaker this card gets significantly. And I would still just play with Wizard's Retort. Like the deck needs to be all around on the flying plan for me to want to play this thing. But we do have more flyers. We do have Brazen Bar. I just don't think it's enough. I would stick to Wizard's Retort. Just a more reliable, like it will counter it no matter what. And when you go into the long game against particular decks, it's brutal. If you take out Stormtamer, it gets weaker, but a cancel is still a cancel. And I don't think it gets that much weaker because you still play Trickster or Harbinger on turn 2. You don't need Wizard's Retort up on turn 2. Generally, you need it by like turn 3. I mean, there will be some exceptions. Like on turn, you might want to play, I don't know, Siren Stormtamer turn 1, and then counter Teferi Time Reveler on their turn 3, but you only have 2 mana up. I really like having a counter that hits Teferi on the draw. Well, the solution to that is just like have Mutavault or just have creatures on the battlefield to make sure it dies. Okay, hold on. I'll be back in a second. My brother just got here. Hello. I'm here. Come on. My brother has arrived. Teferi is one of the worst things to face because they curve it into Verdict and you die. Well, is there... Fortunately, this is so heavy on blue. Is there any room to play Mutavault in this deck? There's some room to play like 2 Mutavaults, isn't there? 2 to 3? At least 2, because you only need 18 mana to consistently have double blue by turn 2. Or was it 20? Frank Carson, what did you say? How many mana sources do you need? Maybe it was 20. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, this is the old article. How many mana sources? Why isn't this showing up on Google? Okay, I want double blue. Oh, it's 20. Okay, forget it. Not 16. So 20 is fine. We can't play Mutavaults. Well, actually, I could be in for Jori Disruption, to be honest. So that's a new card. I could be up for that. Like, let's make some use of these new lands. Why not? So you have the option to play a land on turn 1. Or you have the option to play a land, or you have the option to counter spells. You at least, well, I mean, you have the option at the very least. Well, I was just thinking for Merfolk, because I, as a Merfolk player, play about around 17 to 18 blue sources, but I forget that I think Ether Vial is part of the equation. So this is a possibility. And why not? Like, why not use some of these lands? I mean, I will admit this is the type of deck that generally wants to curve out. Turn 1, turn 2, turn 2. Well, you're going to have a lot of turn 1, turn 2, and then turn 3, you don't have a 3-drop. You just have a bunch of 2-drops, so you can at least play this as a land into play tapped. So yeah, I would run 4 of these. You have a lot of you have no reason to have islands or this many islands. This is too many islands. How many islands is this? You have 19 islands, so you can like. I'm pretty confident you have 19, so you can go to like 3 Castle Vantress, 4 Jori Disruption, and I don't think you're gonna have that many problems. Keeps turn 3 Teferi away, which is important. I mean, Teferi is a beating. Usually the answer to Teferi is Mutavault, but we can't afford to play Mutavault in this list. Unless we want to go to 26 lands. Hey, which, hey, maybe is a possibility. So I hope some of that feedback was good. I can't speak for the sideboard because I don't play Pioneer right now. I just don't play Pioneer. Can't help you. And all right, let's do one more. So good luck with the Mono Blue Devotion and Pioneer. Chief has been chosen. Fucktron 2.0. Didn't we see this list already? Hold on. So we have a new Fucktron deck. 4 Battle of Wits, Islands, 15 Forest. But how does it beat Tron? It beats Mill. I mean, this is the anti-Mill. This is definitely the anti-Mill deck. I mean, what is Mill gonna do? They barely have targets for their what's it called? Their surgical extractions. I would say it doesn't beat Tron very much, but it's going to definitely beat the Mill deck. A decent budget option. If you know a Mill player who you hate, I mean, you can just play this deck and they will. I mean, they'll need the Mill combo, right? They need the Frying Sanity into the Cacophony. The London Mulligan makes this possible. London Mulligan for Battle of Wits, and then just rip lands off the top of your deck and win. Hold on. Do we need? I'm just brainstorming here. What if we played Treasure Hunt with Battle of Wits in a deck like this? Doesn't that work? Doesn't that work? Like Treasure Hunt and Battle of Wits? Because I just played a Treasure Hunt deck. You reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card, then put all cards revealed this way into your hand. So we just need to play with like an obscene number of cards in our deck. Well, we can discard them. So I don't know. We can shuffle them back into our deck somehow. And we only need to hit. Okay, how many cards do we need in our deck? We need 200. That's difficult. There's got to be a way to shuffle them all back in. But it can't be done in with a land. Had 4 Idyllic Tutor. Yeah, but it's expensive, isn't it? No, it's actually not too bad. Oh yeah, okay. So you can have this. I have no idea how often you're going to goldfish to turn 5 Battle of Wits against anybody. Don't you have to like wait a turn, or is it when at the beginning of your upkeep? You actually have to wait till like turn 5. That's like impossible. Anyway, I don't know if this is very good against Tron, but this is certainly good against Mill. All right, we can do another one since that was a meme suggestion. There's no more deck list. Wow, this is I've never seen that. No deck list left to review. So we saw everybody. All right, for day 100 of Coffee and MTG, we actually for the first time also ran out of deck list to review, but that's all good. Okay, so that is going to be it for Coffee and MTG. But everyone watching live, we are going to translate into our stream. Someone quick, yeah, submit a deck list. No, too late. We're gonna go into gameplay. So Pessimist Scientist asks, are we going to test the new Murpho card? We'll see about it. We'll see about it. I am definitely going to test it. I don't know if it's going to be today or Wednesday. So anyway, for everyone watching on YouTube, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us for Coffee and MTG Day 100. Did not exactly go over smoothly, but it was fine. You know what? It's always a surprise on Coffee and MTG. So until then, I'll see you at the next cup. Take care, and I'll see you next time.